All right, buckle up for this deep dive, folks. Today, we're going deep on a pretty radical take on the future of Africa.
Oh,
Yeah, it might just flip everything you thought about international aid right on its head.
interesting.
We're digging into some comments made by Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the WTO. You know her.
Of course.
So she did this interview, right, with Channels Television. And let me tell you, she did not hold back.
Really?
Basically, she's saying that for African nations to really make it, to truly prosper, the whole idea of relying on international aid needs a serious, fundamental rethink.
Wow, that is a bold statement.
And it is. But she backs it up. It's not just talk. She's actually laying out a whole roadmap for African nations to become, real economic powerhouses. And the core of it, the key, she says, is ditching the aid dependency and going all in on, self-sufficiency.
Okay, I'm listening. I think a lot of people are probably thinking, all right, ditch the aid, that's fine, but then what? Where's the money going to come from?
Right. Exactly. And that's where things get really, really interesting. She points out that Africa is already overflowing with resources.
I mean, I know that, but
Did you know there's something like $250 billion just sitting in pension funds across the continent?
250 billion,
Yeah.
that's an insane amount of money.
Right. And she's like, what if, right? What if those funds, with a few tweaks to the regulations, would be invested right back into development projects within Africa? Game over.
Right.
That changes everything.
Absolutely. And then there's institutions like the multilateral development banks.
Yeah.
These are, think of them as global financial institutions that pour money into development projects all over the world.
Right.
Okonjo-Iweala is saying these banks, along with, the national development banks each country has, could play a way bigger role if they were just given more capital.
Yeah, it's all about recognizing the wealth that's already there and then figuring out how to, unlock it instead of waiting for handouts.
Totally. And speaking of unlocking wealth, she brought up this idea of diaspora bonds.
Diaspora bonds.
Yeah. It's a brilliant concept. So imagine you're, Nigerian
Right.
living in London, right? You're doing well, you're successful, but you love your home country, you want to see it thrive, right?
For sure.
Diaspora bonds let you invest directly in Nigeria's development, and you get a return on your investment, so you win and the country wins.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. Nigeria actually did this and raised, get this, $300 million through a diaspora bond.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've got these pension funds, development banks, diaspora bonds.
Yeah.
It's like she's pointing out all these hidden treasure chests all over the place.
Yeah. But it's not just about the money, right? It's about what you actually do with it.
Right.
Okonjo-Iweala is very clear that Africa needs to move beyond just shipping out raw materials. It's got to be about adding value.
You mean instead of just sending out the raw materials, process them in Africa?
Exactly. She's arguing that if you process the raw materials in Africa, it creates jobs, it brings in way more revenue, and it builds a much more sustainable economic base.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think about it, right? There have been all these recent discoveries of lithium and manganese and copper in Africa.
And those are all used in electric car batteries and stuff.
Exactly. They're absolutely critical for the whole green tech revolution that's happening. And she saying this is a golden opportunity for Africa to become a leader, a major player in this industry. But, and this is key, only if they're processing and refining these resources right there on the continent.
I mean, yeah, that makes total sense. But to actually pull that off, to actually get in the game, you need to have access to global markets.
100%. You need to be able to sell your products to the world.
So this is where her role at the WTO comes in, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, she's the director general.
She's a total powerhouse. And she's fighting tooth and nail to reduce the trade barriers that are preventing African nations from exporting these value-added products they're producing. And there's this big WTO ministerial meeting coming up in Cameroon. She sees that as a huge opportunity, a platform for Africa to really push for fairer trade deals.
So let me get this straight. Okonjo-Iweala is basically laying out this incredibly ambitious vision.
Yeah.
Move away from aid, unlock the potential that's already in Africa, stop exporting raw materials and start making finished goods, and fight like hell for a level playing field in global trade.
It's ambitious, yeah, but
Is it too ambitious?
I don't think so. I think she's really challenging us to rethink this whole narrative we have about Africa, right, as this recipient of aid, and start seeing it as a continent that's just bursting with potential and ready, to take its rightful place on the global stage.
It's a powerful vision, and I think it raises a really important question, right? If we're really going to see this shift away from traditional aid, What kinds of new international partnerships do we need? What kinds of collaborations are going to have to emerge to support this new path for Africa? That's something to really think about, isn't it?
It is.
Lots to chew on there. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. This is definitely one to sit with for a while. Catch you on the next one.
Sounds good.
See ya.
See ya.